Okay, so today I'm going to show you how to set up an activity using an assignment. So it's a very basic assignment. And this is when your students are working remotely. Now, most of you will experience this during work integrated learning. Your students are going off to site, or they work in hospitals, or they work somewhere in industry where they are apprenticing or working under someone in the industry and, learning as they go. Now, a lot of people don't realize it, and that is why I wanted to show it today, but you can have students upload multiple files on a single assignment. So often I'll see assignments where the lecturer has an assignment portal, but there's also a document that they have to fill out, and then there's something else, and all of these things that end up being one assignment, but it's 5 or 6 links that the students have to navigate, which is unnecessary. So I'm going to show you today how students can upload multiple types of files in a single activity and how to break that down. So I'm going to go to, I have a content area here created specifically for assignments, but you might want to do this in a learning unit space or anywhere, or have a space just for this single assignment. This is completely based on your preference. I have a space here for assignments, so I'm going to add this new assignment to that. Just want to open up there we go. Okay, so I'm going to go up to assessments, apologies, and assignment. And what our assignment today is about excavating for foundation. So I had ChatGPT set up this assignment for me today because I know nothing about this and I hate writing examples. So if anything is wrong, any of you who know anything about building, it's not me, it's the internet. Okay, so this is a built environment, and I'm going to just paste from my Word document into the content editor box. A lot of people I see upload the Word document. So I have a Word document where I put my assignment. Here it is. And a lot of you would upload this Word document instead of copying and pasting the text into the content editor box. Remember, this makes an extra click for your students and a navigation away from the main interest point. And that is frustrating to students, but not only frustrating, it can lead them astray and make it a bit more confusing for them to upload their assignment. Most of the students that contact me because they can't find an assignment are cases such as the lecturer does not put the text in the content editor box, but rather uploads a pre-existing Word document to the attachments. And this is really unnecessary. You can just copy and paste into the content editor box. Now, remember, as reference, but you should know this by now, we use the shortcuts to copy and paste into eThuto. Control plus C equals copy. Control plus V equals paste. Control plus X equals cut. And this one is just for extra. I love this because I use this a lot. Control plus Z equals undo. So if I Control Z now, it's going to undo that last step for me. And so on. So Control Z is a nice one. Okay, so remember those. I'm going to just copy them here and put them in the chat if you want to save them somewhere. Where did my chat go? There we go. Okay. Right, so let's get back to our assignment. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make it a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to go to unsplash.com. Now, remember, unsplash.com is one of the sites that we can use for free images. These images are all unlicensed. They are Creative Commons, so you could use them. It is recommended to link back to the original source so that the author of the image gets credit, but you don't actually need to, but it is just a nice to do. So I'm going to ask for excavate foundation building site. And we get very high quality images from Unsplash, but also from Pixabay, if there are any of you that haven't seen Pixabay yet. I'm putting all of these links in the chat, so remember to just keep an eye on the chat for any extra info. They also have very nice high quality images. The same deal, they are free to use. Also recommended to link back to the original author. Oh, this one is good, perfect, but that's a sponsored one. No, that's not. So all these below are sponsored images and they will cost money. And that is how Pixabay and Unsplash makes their money. They advertise for other sites that sell stock images like iStock, or maybe it would be some of the others. Let's see who sponsors this one today. They'll always be at the bottom. No, not in this case. Okay, so we're going to take this one. Now, remember, when we embed images directly from internet, so instead of having the image already downloaded to my computer, I instead am going to embed it directly from this website. But when the image is like this, it means that the image is laid over on top of the main site. So this URL does not speak to the image itself, but to this entire page. So to separate them, I go to the image, right-click, open image in new tab. Oh, and it's going to download. So this is new. Sorry, I didn't know that. Let's see if this happens here as well. Okay, so who's this? Pixabay has now decided to then download the image to computer instead of opening it. Probably because they don't want people to embed anymore. I mean, that's their choice. But in other sites, this will happen. You open a new and it will separate the image, and that URL you will be able to embed in. So I didn't know this. New. Always good to learn something new. So this automatically downloaded the image to my computer, and that's fine. That's what I wanted anyway. So I'm going to go just to brighten up my space here, add that image, go to add content, which is the plus button. I'm going to insert local. So I was going to just put in the link there, the URL link, but now, so I'm just going to go to my downloads, get the latest one. Okay, nicely. There's the image. I'm going to rescale a little bit. This is large. Remember always to take care of thinking of your students' bandwidth. I like 600 pixels on the long end. Now I'm just rescaling it now with my mouse by dragging it, but you can also go to image. So right click on the image, and then you can be very specific with the sizing. I'm going to center this as well. Nice. Okay. And I'm going to up this to a bit larger font. We find 14 points is very good for laptops and tablet devices. So if your students are working on smaller devices, remember your CUT screen might be at 22 minimum or 24. Your students will not have that. So remember that. So 14 points we find shows very well on laptop and other devices. Okay. Now, another thing that I want to show you is what I like as well is the expand view, full screen. You can just click it here and then you will always have access to all the tools even as you scroll down. So the tools get frozen at the top. This is very nice if you work a lot. It's also got a shortcut, Control-Shift-F. So Control-Shift-F and then Control-Shift-F back. Now, you will probably not need this shortcut. It's just for people like me who work on this quite a lot and I need to get in and out quickly, but it's a nice shortcut to know. Okay, so we're gonna color this up, maybe make this even bigger and make it a nice bright red and so on. All right, so this is the assignment. This is what the students will have to do. When I pasted in it, lost my bullets. Not to worry, I'm just going to put my bullets back. Now, this often happens when pasting. I find that pasting from a live online document is best. So if you work on a Teams or a Google Doc, pasting from there leaves more of your formatting intact than pasting from a normal Word document like I just did. Just as a sort of side note of interest. Okay, so I'm just going to put that back. There's all of my instructions to the student, and here is my, so what the students are going to do is they're going to have an essay. Oh, I also need to delineate these. They're going to film a video of the site. They're going to take a selfie of themselves with the site manager to prove that they were actually on site, and they have to maintain a logbook. So these are 4 very different types of evidence that they will be collecting, and they're going to hand this all in one single assignment. Later, at the end of the year, this will probably form part of their portfolio of evidence. But this is now for a single assignment. They're going to hand all of these in here. Okay, so that is my assignment. Now I'm going to not add any attachment files. If this were a portfolio of evidence, I might want to upload the template here that students can download and then work on to, create their portfolio evidence. But this is just a single assignment. I'm not going to do that now. This is going to be due at, let's say, 1st of April. And I'm not going to put in the points possible because I want to add a rubric. So I've got my rubric here. So I'm going to exit that. And this is my rubric. And you can see that it has 3 tiers: fail, pass, and excel. And it counts up to 100. So I've got this here. And I'm going to build this into eThuto. I'm not going to just attach this. I'm going to build it in so I can actually use it to mark with the assignment so that I don't need to. So I'm going to just separate here so that you can follow along. It's a pity you can't share 2 screens as well. That would be nice. Okay, so I'm going to create a rubric for this. Create new rubric. And I'm just going to open that here. I'm going to call this Remember to give all of your items, whether it's rubrics, assignments, discussion forums, anything like that, unique names. Remember, anything that goes and ends up in the grade center or that you need to get from your files, your content files in the subject itself, if you don't name them very uniquely, it often creates a very confusing space and it's difficult to find anything, especially when we start archiving or we copy over to new subjects and things like that. Now, I've got a rubric here that is just points range, so I'm going to change it. At the moment, it's from percentage, so I'm going to change it to points range. Always do this as the very first step. So when you change your rubric and you do this as the very first step. So first you give it a name, then you change the rubric type. Sometimes, and this is a glitch that we just can't fix, and hopefully they'll sort out now when we move to Ultra, is that sometimes if you do this at the end, after you've filled out the fields, it won't save the rubric. So always make sure that you change that first thing. We're going to go and change. So first category is logbooks. I'm just going to copy that. And I'm going to go to this little menu to edit, paste it, save. And I'm going to go down and do the rest. Now I've got 4 rows, whereas the rubric only starts out with 3. So we need to add another one. And we do this by going up here, add row, and so on. Now, this is a very basic rubric. For a large assignment like this that counts towards 100, you would probably have a more, prescriptive rubric. Your essay, for instance, will have 4 or 5 of its own rows, but this is just for example basic. So I'm going to change my criteria from novice, competent, and proficient to fail. So my students should know that this is where we fail. You failed this section. Pass. So this is everything that's going to be 50 up. And then excel, anything that's going to be distinctions. Let me just switch off that sound. There we go. Okay, excel. And I'm going to put in my criteria. And these are going to serve as a roadmap for my students so that they know exactly what is expected of them during the assignment. And know what is expected of them to get a pass or an excel if they are in for a distinction. Also, it makes your life much easier when it comes to the assessing. And it's also a very nice paper trail for the moderator to follow to know what your thought process was during marking. Okay, nearly there. For some reason, I'm struggling to talk and paste today. So any of your rubrics that you've already created, some of these might be in your archive that you've been using for years, can be copied and pasted over rather quickly, as you can see like this. So I would really encourage you to do this. Actually build in the rubrics into your assignments instead of uploading them as a file and then not actually using them for marking, because that's really just a waste. Blackboard will save your rubrics and you'll always have them available. Oh, see what I did now? I had no points. That's not good. Points range. There we go. Let's hope it saves and doesn't do that error that I was talking about. So always build in your rubrics. We can get them from previous subjects and import them back into, your 2023 subjects, and they always stay on Blackboard, which is nice. But also the marking makes it a lot easier, which you'll see now when we start marking. Okay, so this was a 20, I think. So this is going to be 1, 2, 6-ish. Don't blame my math. No, this isn't going to work. This will have to be 20, so something like this. Okay. Always remember not to overlap. So 8 to 8, for instance. So you can't have 8 here. It will confuse the system. Never overlaps. Always make sure that you have that. The selfie won't be worth that much. So let's just do that as a 5. Oh. 5, and then this was going to be 25. So you'll see that it keeps track for you at the bottom. So as you go, it's going to keep track of the I have no idea where I'm at now, but let's just put in some numbers. As long as it ends up at 50, we'll have 100, and there is our rubric. Okay. Once the rubric is done, we just submit. It's going to ask us to click OK to assign the maximum points. So that's why I said we're not going to fill in the points possible because we're building in a rubric, and it will do that automatically. It will pick up what the rubric ends up as and put that for us in the score. Okay, so we're back at the assignment now. The rubric always opens as a new tab so that you can work on 2 screens, which is nice. But now it's here and it is built into my website. By default, it will be used for marking. In other words, we will have it available when we go to needs marking to grade our assignments. By default, it will not show to students. And I always check yes and with the rubric score. So in other words, the students can not only see what is expected, but also how much each of these are worth so that they can kind of, know where to focus most of their attention. But this is up to you and according to your practice preference. But it is nice to allow students to have the rubric before an assignment so that they can use it to best complete the assignment. Okay. Now we've got our rubric in, our assignment's looking good. We are going to look at submission details. This is an individual submission, but it could have been a group submission or a portfolio submission. If it is a group submission, though, you need to create the groups beforehand. So you can't have a group submission and decide now that it's a group submission before you've actually gone to your groups and created the groups that will be participating in this assignment. Okay, so we're going to leave it on individual because that's what that is. Students can have more than one attempt or, a single attempt. If you are, for instance, allowing them to use the plagiarism tool and re-upload once they've fixed it, you might want to give 3 attempts or more, depending on what you have. Or maybe if it's a strict assignment, they can only get 1 attempt. And then you can always give them later more attempts for single individual students if they had trouble. So you don't need to think, I'm going to give 2 attempts just in case they have any problems. You can give 1 attempt and then give single students a second attempt later using the adaptive release. So always remember that it's not necessary to give all the students 3 attempts if you think a single student is going to have trouble. Now, which of these attempts are we going to score at the end? Now, because we're giving more than 1 attempt because we're afraid that students might hit some, glitch or maybe internet or load shedding, we always want to leave it as the last mark because obviously the last one the student uploaded would have been the one they wanted to upload. So that is a good one to leave it on, but you can change it to highest, lowest, first, or average between the 3 or 2 or however many the student uploaded. But last is normally the default. Plagiarism, so they will be uploading an essay, so there will be text-based submission, so we want to check it for plagiarism. Remember, SafeAssign cannot actually check for plagiarism, and it can only give you an originality report saying what matched up with other documents in its database. SafeAssign uses a global and an institutional database. So in other words, everything that's been uploaded on the CUT database, along with everything from other universities in the global database. So it will also compare with students' previous assignments if you use the system in your previous assignment. So in other words, if your 2022 students also uploaded this assignment, and you also check the SafeAssign, then those submissions will be compared by the 2023 student submissions. Okay, the next one is we can allow them to view it, and then we can exclude submissions from the database. Now, this is what that means. Firstly, if we are giving multiple attempts for the purpose of having students re-upload after they fix, then we definitely want them to see the originality report. Otherwise, that would be a moot point. Excluding submissions from the database. This is so that the second submission doesn't compare to the first submission. So in this case, again, yes, we want to check it. But importantly, to improve the system, we do want the student submission to someday be uploaded to the global and institutional databases so that the 2024 students can't borrow or buy submissions from the 2023 students and upload them later. So remember that at some point, you want your students to either upload their assignments again, or maybe when they do the portfolio of evidence, the final at the end of the year, where you have this unchecked, or you can upload the submissions manually so that you know they are stored in the database. Always remember that when you check this box, this submission will not go to the corpus of documents that the system uses to compare against. Okay, I'm done with submission details. Marking options now, I think we should do I've been thinking about this for a while now, a delegated marking session, but it's too much to do in just an assignment. Basically what this is you could divide your students into certain groups and decide which lecturer or instructors or teaching assistants or whatever you have on your page marks which students. You can also have where certain lecturers mark certain sections, etc., and then reconcile the marks at the end. So one day I'll do a little session on that because people have been asking about that, and it's not complicated setting it up, but it can cause a lot of problems in the grade center if you don't understand all of the little niches. So we'll do that one day. But for now, we're going to leave both the marking options unchecked. We don't want anonymous marking. We want to see the students. So we're going to have a selfie of the student anyway. So I'm going to know which students uploaded, but we want the students to, this might be something that you want to do if it's going to be a moderated session and you want the students to just appear as attempt one, not have the students' details show up. So there might be lots of reasons why you might want to check that. We don't have them today though. Display of marks. I like to always change this to percentage. It just makes more sense for us because later when we upload to ITS, we want this to be in percentage. So it just makes more sense to do it now. You can also have a secondary, and that way it will split the cell in Blackboard's grade center and you can see both percentage and score. I'm not sure why you'd want to do that. I have seen people do it and you can do that, but I always leave it. Including grade center marking calculations. This means that if you have, for instance, a total column, or maybe you have an average column, or any of the other calculated marking columns, obviously where you have one where you put in percentages, it won't include because this column wouldn't have been in the initial setting up of the column, but total, average, highest, lowest, any of those types of columns, this will be included in. If you don't want that, you just uncheck it. Now, a little bit later when we get to the grade center, I'll show exactly what I mean there. Show to students in my marks. So are they allowed to go when they're here on their global navigation? They can go to marks and see this. Do you want to allow this or not? There are two ways of hiding marks from students. You can hide them here in the assignment options or in the grade center itself. So if you want to show to students, you have to have it available on both. You can just uncheck with either and it won't show. So remind me, I'll also, when we get to the grade center, just show that quickly. So always make sure that if you want your students to see marks, it needs to be available both in the assignment or test options and in the grade center. Okay. You can show the average and median to the students. So if you want them to see where they're kind of at in the class, you're welcome to just check that. There are certain rules regarding this. So I would make sure with my head of department what your department specific rules are about showing statistics to students. So just make double sure before you check that box. Okay, availability, when is this going to be available? You can obviously put in your two availability dates, so it's going to be available after, maybe tomorrow, and then available to a certain date. That means it will only open during that span of time. I'm going to leave this unchecked now because we're going to complete it as a student, so that we want it to be open. And then we can track number of views, which is nice. So it shows you how many students interacted with content. This isn't always as necessary with assignments because the submissions actually give us a better idea of who interacted with the content, but you can still check it, and it is nice for other items to know, maybe 50 students opened the assignment, but only 40 uploaded, and that might give us an idea that students are struggling with the technology, or maybe the assignments are daunting or anything like that. So it's a good thing to have for your stats and your analytics. Okay, so I'm going to go and submit that. And here is my assignment at the very bottom. And I can go and double check it. I can even go and change to student preview mode and see the assignment as my students will see it. So I'm going to go, students will go to assignments. And you can even upload as a student would upload. So you can open the assignment and you can check, okay, good, the rubric is visible. Oh, okay, so they'll see it like this. Good. Okay, the due date is correct. Points possible is there. Okay, students can see all of the text nicely. And then you can even go and upload as a student would have uploaded, just to check how the process works, or if you want to make demo videos or things like that. Although I think we do have demo videos on assignments, and you can test it like this. However, when you submit, it's going to tell you that you can't actually submit because you are an instructor and you're in preview. So it's going to give you this. Okay, it never used to do that. It never used to give you the submission confirmation. Okay, great. Okay, no, never mind. You can, in student preview mode, go through all of the motions of uploading. That's very nice. So now you'll see your assignment. If the student is uploading docx, files, or PDF or PowerPoint or any text-based that is supported, even JPEG and PNG images will show up in line like this. If it's a file type that is not recognized or can't be shown in the inline grading, it will just appear as a link that they can download or you can download. So for those of you who specialize softwares that have their own proprietary file extensions, they will just appear as a link here. Students can also toggle back and forth between multiple submissions. So can you, by just clicking on which of these they are going to. Okay, so I'm going to exit preview now. And I'm happy with my assignment. Now we are going to upload the assignment. I just want to move some things here. Okay, so before I move on to the student mode and upload my assignment, do we have any questions up until now, or is everyone still happy? And please remember to complete the attendance register. I've put the link in the chats again so that I can tell your bosses that you were here. Okay, I'm going to move on. Sounds like everyone is happy. So I'm just going to open up another browser so that I can go in as a student. Okay, so the student is going to come in. We as the lecturers will tell them where they need to look for the assignment and what it's called. So they're going to scroll down. And this is the assignment, so click on it. They'll be able to view their rubric and everything that they need. And now they know that they need to have a photo, a logbook, a video, and their essay. So they have to upload 4 items. Now they can browse local, or like I'm going to do now, they can just simply drag and drop. This will be put through Safe Assign because it is one of the document types that can be put through Safe Assign. Here's my logbook. My video. Remember, videos will take a little bit longer. So when you are asking them for videos, make sure that they hang tight while uploading and not exit too soon. We get that quite often. And then once they are, always make sure that they double check because they don't double check. And then we are going to submit. Now this is going to take a second because we have a video. It's not a very long video, so it's not going to be too long. But it'll take longer than just having a Word document. So always remember the students need to wait this out. So if it's saying waiting, wait. A lot of them close before they get this purple submission success bar, and then that is not handed in. So they will have just a blank space. It will show there was a submission, but no files would have been uploaded. Okay, so the student can now see, all right, my selfie looks good, and they can toggle between their submissions. There's the video, right? That looks good. It's always good to make sure that everything works. It's also a good culture to instill into our students to get them to kind of practice double checking everything, you know, measure twice, cut once kind of attitude. There's the logbook, fine. There is my essay, not a very good essay, but yeah, I didn't reformat it. I was a bit lazy. Okay, so student is happy, so they click OK. They can't see their progress, their Safe Assign report yet, because it's going to take a little while to compare. So I'm going to exit. Now we'll come back to this a little bit later, but if they want to see their Safe Assign, they can come back in a couple of minutes. Just click on the assignment again. And oh, okay, this time actually it did check so they can go open up this originality and go and have a look at the report. And they can go and have a look at that 4% that was found from the database. It was from another student's paper, which is strange because ChatGPT wrote this essay. Interesting. Okay. Right, so that's the originality report. Okay, and let's go back to the lecture. We're going to now mark our assignments. So the due date is passed. The students have handed in their assignments. They're still on site wherever they you know, working or doing whatever it is you send them out to do. And the due date is passed. So we're going to go down to our grade center, needs marking. And this is where everything that needs our attention will first pop into. Now you'll have many students, so you'll have a long list of students here. I only have this one. If you have multiple assignments or tests or things going on, you can always filter what is shown here by saying maybe I only want assignments to show up, or specific items, or specific users. Now in my case, because there's only one user that's handed in, every time there's only one option. In your case, there will be multiples to choose from, and then you just hit go and it will filter out so that you have less to look at when you start off marking. Now let's have a look at the inline grading and the rubric and how much easier that makes your life. So I'm going to go onto that user attempt. And the same as with the student, the files will show inline, meaning it shows in this little box. Okay. And I can toggle back and forth between them. So first thing I see, all right, student has handed in everything. So let's open up that rubric. I'm happy with the 4%, but you can open that, of course, if you want to go and double check it. So to get the rubric, we have to open it here. I just want to close that again. So for some reason, and we've never been able to realize why, Blackboard hides the rubric in this little blue line. So you need to open it first. Then you have two choices. You can either mark it here in this window like that, or you can mark it in a new window. Now, the only difference is that if you mark it in a pop-up new window, you have a space for feedback that is a bit easier to type into than when it's in the system. So this is completely up to you. I like to use this method because now I can move the rubric to my other screen, and most of us work with two screens, and I can mark here on the rubric while I'm still looking at the content. So I'm just going to put it here in the corner. Oh, now I lost it. Never mind. We'll use this one. Okay, so there's the rubric. We can show the descriptions. If you forgot your own descriptions, you can add them, or you don't need to, and feedback boxes for each. Okay, I'm gonna leave them. Let's put a couple of feedbacks in just so we can see from the student point of view what that looks like. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the logbook first. So I've got logbook here. So I'm gonna go back, not back, I'm gonna go down to the logbook. This is also why it's actually nicer to use the rubric that opens in a new tab. But okay, here we go. This is a picture of the student's logbook. Yes, they did it correctly. I'm happy with that. I'm going to give them a 16 here. And I'm going to put in some feedback. All right. Next one is the selfie. So again, I'm going to just go to selfie. Beautiful. All right, students doing very well. I'm going to give them a 5 out of 5 because can't find anything wrong with that. Next thing down is the video. Okay, maybe this is a bit short, so I'm going to say it's a pass. I'm going to give you 14 for that. The video is very short. It only shows one crane, for instance. It doesn't actually show the digging. And then finally, we're going to go to the essay. And what I love about inline grading, I can go and doodle on the student's work like we used to old school. You lecturers really don't want to let go of the red pen. So it's still here. You can still use it when we're doing online. And you can just go nuts. Oof, I have a rolling mouse, so this is not good. But if you have a pen, it's easier. Okay, so do whatever you would have done with your red pen. Change colors if you want. You can also add images. So if you need to add your signature, add that. Or you can add comments. So I'm going to add a comment here. And so on. So you can just go along and just mark any way you want to, and it's going to be very similar to the way you marked before we went online. Okay, so we're happy with this. You can also doodle on the images and other static items. You can't doodle on the videos though, but some of these others you'll also be able to if you want to add some doodling there, or maybe have stickers. I know a lot of you still like using stickers to say nice and good job. Have those as images and just upload them here. Okay, now a lot of you sometimes come to me and say you want to download these as bulk. So the ones where you've already marked on them. Unfortunately, we can only bulk download the original assignments, not the ones that have already been graded. If you want these, you have to download them as you go with this button. Make sure not to download them here. Let me just close this rubric. It's out of the way. Oh, we still need to give a point for, that's a good essay. Let's give them 40. Okay, I'm going to save the rubric. That's done. So don't download from here because that will download the original that the student uploaded. If you want to download the one with your comments and doodles on, you need to download from here. So do it as you go. You can't bulk download marked assignments, unfortunately. Okay, so the student's mark was inputted automatically at the top. We can override this. So if you want to add or subtract, you just highlight that and type in a new mark. You don't need to go with the rubrics mark, of course. And then we can add some feedback to the learner. And then once we're done, we submit. Now, remember, once we've submitted, it will clear from the needs marking section and go to the grade center, but you can always remark any item in the grade center. So if you've submitted, it's not set in stone, you can go back and edit it. And we do this by going to the grade center, the full grade center this time. We follow that column, which will always appear at the end unless we moved it, and the corresponding row of the student. And then here we just go to the little drop down next to the cell and attempt. And we can go and look at the attempt again, and you can change anything. You can change the rubric. You can, change anything that you want. Just save it again, or feedback or anything, or come and download it later if you want to. Okay, so you can always come back. Now let's have a look at the student side of things. So I'm just going to refresh here. So if the student comes back into the assignment while it is still open, remember it's still open now to the student, it might close later, but they can come here and see your feedback and marks. And they can also see your, where's that one? Essay. They can also see your doodling and so on. Okay, but this is only available to them through this route as long as the assignment is open. Otherwise, they have to go to marks, but they know this. We cover this with them in orientation. But if you want to just talk to them again about it if they don't know, they can go to the subject. So I can see that there's something new in my marks here, and click on that. And it's going to be at the very bottom. Here I can view the rubric, and I can see how my lecturer, I can also see the feedback from my lecturer. I can also see that there are comments. There's my feedback, the one that we put in that other box. I can also go and have a look at the assignment as such. You can also add a grades tool link to your subject, and students can go directly to that and only see this subject's grades as well. So if you don't want them to have to navigate through this, you can have one in your tool, in your menu under the tool links. So to do that, you just go, I'm just going to go back to the lecture view. Just go to that plus and tool link, select my marks, call it whatever, make it available, and then students will be able to access that and get their marks through that directly. And that's how students will view all of their marks. Okay, I'm trying to remember, I said something that I had to check in. Oh, hiding, there we go. Hiding, so if you don't want your students to be able to see it, you can hide a column in the grade center by simply going to its menu at the top. So the column, not the cell, column menu, and say hide from students on off. Okay, this icon will appear. If you ever want to know what the icons in the grade center means, just go to icon legend and we'll explain each of them. And you can see that this one means column is not visible to users. So now if I go back to my student view and I go back to those marks, you can see that at the bottom that one has disappeared. So it's not available for me anymore to view. Right, so you can always hide your columns that way as well. Okay, we've come to the end. We have about 8 to 10 minutes for questions if you have any. Otherwise, I am going to say have a lovely weekend. So please feel free to unmute yourself, ask me some questions. You can also put them in the chat. Let me just open my chat. Where is my chat? Come on, chat. There we go. Okay, so anything that you want to ask. Remember that you can always email me any questions if you can't think of anything now. The recording will be on YouTube later today, so I always download it directly after the session, so you can go and review anything that you want to. Okay, any questions?
Yeah, I'd like to quickly ask something.
Yeah.
I know I can go back and listen to the recording. I've done so many assignments, and I thought is there possibly anything I can learn? So first of all, thank you very much. I learned a lot today. The one thing I do want to ask you is, you explained to us here right in the beginning, how do you freeze that pane with your when you're putting up an assignment that's or you're setting up your assignment, you've got that pane or that toolbar. How do you freeze it so that when you scroll down, you can it remains in your view?
Okay, so that is for anywhere where you have the content editor box.
Yes.
So when you work on the content editor box in line like this, it's annoying because the further down you go, your tools are removed and you have to scroll back up. So you will have to go highlight and then go up and say, I want to make that bigger. Okay, and then down. And that's very annoying. So you can just here at the far right, there's the full screen icon.
Uh-huh.
And I also said that the shortcut, and I'll put it in the chat, is Control plus Shift. Is it now Control plus Shift? Yeah, it is. Plus F will make it full screen if you are a shortcut user like myself. So Control Shift F.
Yeah, because I'm definitely gonna get quite a lot of, how can I say, it's gonna be very useful to me.
Yeah. So now when we scroll down, I've frozen my tools at the top. So now if I want to highlight this section, I don't have to scroll back up. I can just make it bigger here and change the color or whatever. So it's very helpful if you have long documents and things like that. So full screen. But there is the button. It looks like that. Then when you're done, you click the same button and exits and you can submit.
Wonderful. Thank you, Leanne.
Okay, you're welcome.
So much.
I'm happy. I'm going to stop the recording.